All right, everyone. I have Lauren here with me. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
I am so glad to be here, Janae. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. So I would love to open up with this is my favorite question. What are you most excited about that's coming up in your life?
I've had so much fun listening to everybody else's answers to this question on your podcast that I literally pre-thought about this.
Oh my God, I
Um,
love it.
I am really excited about a residency that I have in New York City that has just come about and being there monthly and getting to talk and share about sex and coach in live time. And I'm really excited about that because I have a lot of clients in New York City and this opportunity just presented itself. And so I'm going to get to be there once a month teaching and coaching in live time. And I'm so excited.
Wait, that's amazing. I
Thank
love
you.
that for
I'm
you. That's
very
so
excited.
exciting.
Really excited. So my background's in theater, and so
Cool.
I grew up on stages, and being in front of a live audience is really thrilling to me. It's not nerve-wracking. It feels like I'm at home. And so getting to
Mm,
combine that with my passion for sexuality and relationships is literally like I am in heaven. I had my first one earlier this June and it felt so juicy and so good. And so I'm very happy to now make this a monthly thing.
that's, that sounds like it's right up your alley, like exactly what you're wanting. And we love that. We love someone who's passionate and just,
Mm.
finds the things that they're interested in and runs with it. I love it. I love that so much. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congrats. That's
It
a very
feels,
proud moment. Yeah.
it is. It's so funny. I just got off a call with my personal coach, and she was having me do some brags, which is a thing that she has
Love.
me practice. Uh-huh.
We love
And so
that.
she kept having me get deeper and deeper into the brag. And eventually it brought up some tears in me. And I think
Yeah.
it just feels so good, Jenny, to hear you say that because, yes, we love another human in their alignment. We love to
Yes.
see someone chasing what they desire, which so fits into
Mm-hmm.
my work and what I was not allowed to do growing up. And so this
Oh.
feels like this beautiful full circle moment of, yes, this is something that I want. And we do not need to be ashamed of the things that we want. And it actually makes us human beings more full of
Mm.
integrity when we stand in that wanting and then showcases to other people that it is good to want. So thank you for affirming that in
Yes.
me. Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, it's so nice when we can as adults, even no matter what age, right? Like if you find
Yes.
what you're passionate about, that's like one step ahead of a lot of
Mm.
people because some people go their whole life and they're like, I just do this job because I need money or I don't really know what I want to do. So like finding what really resonates with you and what feels good to you is so important. So I love it. So I kind of want to know like a little bit about your background and your early beliefs because I think that from what I understood about your background, that's kind of what started your whole entire career and interests. And so I'd love to kind of know like the early or younger Lauren. Let's learn about her.
Let's talk about her. I think it's the biggest pain to purpose story that there could ever be. And so I would gladly tell it because I want folks to know that if I can do this, you can do this. And I think that there is so much truth to sharing our stories and not thinking, oh, well, it was easier for them, or of course she gets what she wants, or oh, yeah, look at her cute partner that she has now. It has not always been this way. So let's go back in time and tell my origin story. So I was born and raised in a tiny little town here in Virginia that I still live in to this day. And my parents had both found evangelical Christianity in late high school, early adulthood. And that had brought them to this big mega Christian university called Liberty University in Central Virginia. And they had met there and fell in love there and decided to start a family here in my town and wanted something different for their kids than what they had been given. I want everyone to hear me. I think they had good intent. I don't think they meant to screw me up as deeply as they did. And they did. And the reason I find this an important piece of my story is that I think many of our parents are the same. They might have chosen a different angle. They might have chosen not to talk about sex at all. They might have chosen to expose us to too much, whatever it might be. I think that so many of us had caregivers who were well intentioned and yet still gave us an incomplete and inaccurate understanding of sexuality. So hear
Yes.
me. I'm not alone. I thought I was, but I'm not. So I was raised inside of what we now know as purity culture. I was raised abstinence only until marriage. I was raised that my worth was really determined by my sexual purity. I was raised believing that my body belonged to my father until I was given away to my husband on my wedding day. I mean, just strangey stuff. I had a ring, a purity ring is what we called it. I went to a dance. It was wild. It was really wild. I had a big book on courtship. It was interesting. You only dated or courted to marry. There was no casual dating. There was no shopping around. There was no, casual boyfriend, girlfriend, anything. Everything was heteronormative. Homosexuality was a sin. It was very black and white. So I find myself engaged at 21, which was very normal to everyone around me. And we were scheduled to get married around November. Then my mother gets diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and is given days, if not weeks, to live. I mean, just a really short amount of time. And so she says, my one death wish is to see my daughter get married. So we bump our
Oh,
wedding up. I know it's
I'm
sad. I
sorry.
love
That's
her. Rest
awful.
in peace. This is all messy though. So she asks for this. And so we bump our wedding up. And the night before my wedding, I get the one piece of sexuality advice that I was ever given. And that was take care of your husband's needs and everything else will be fine. Fast forward 10 years of being married to this man. We're divorced. I find out he is gay. So, that one piece of sexual advice to take care of your husband's needs was not even ever going to happen. I found myself inside of this marriage and it was sexually dead, so sad, full of him suppressing his homosexual desires, his desires for a wonderful man. And so, therefore, it was coming out in all these weird sideways, different forms, these parasomnias, alcoholism, control, abuse. It was bad, bad. Someone started having dreams about me, is how I got out. They started having dreams. They asked me to go on a walk. I spilled my soul. They got me into counseling. The counselor was like, why are you choosing to be in this? I said, I didn't know marriage was a choice. Things I had never heard before tonight. I mean, it was wild. Fast forward a little bit more. I have to like literally go before a board of white men to ask to be released from my marriage and the church that I was in. I played by all their rules. It was bad. I was
Yeah.
accused of going rogue, of being a whore, of all of these things. So I end up alone, divorced, without a home, without a friend group, without a church group, uh, on a basement apartment floor, crying my
Mm.
eyes out. And it was there on that basement floor with a rat dying in the wall and us not being able to figure out why it smelled so bad that I started to go, wait a second. So I'm no longer a virgin. Am I a whore? Right? This idea that I had saved myself for marriage, but now I was no longer sexually pure because not only had we had sex several times, at this point, he had not revealed that he was gay. We also had a daughter together. She's 7. She's living with me in this one bedroom apartment. And I'm thinking, something's wrong. Like, I feel like something's missing. So it was there that I just started devouring books on sexuality, devouring books on sexual values and the origins of the sexual beliefs that we hand down to people. And one book led to another book, led to another book until the stack was like this high. I was ravenous to understand the pieces that I had not been taught. What I didn't know is that folks were noticing my transformation. Folks were
Mm.
noticing, you look lighter. What's going on? You look happier,
Wow.
healthier. And I was. And so through this, I ended up getting back on dating apps, met my now husband in California on a business trip, thought it was going to be a one
Love
night stand. He moves back to Virginia with me. But one of the things he kept saying is, Hun, I really feel like you maybe should help other people do this. Like, this is pretty phenomenal. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, no, I mean, I think this is pretty cool. So eventually I found my program. I went back to school and found the Institute for Sexuality, Education, and Enlightenment and worked to become a certified holistic sexuality educator. At that time, when I went back to school, I thought, sure, maybe I'll start a business. But I thought really I'd bring it into my maternal health work. Was then working in the maternal health sphere, and I thought reproductive health, maternal health, that makes
Yeah.
sense. But 6 months into school, I was like, holy shit, this would have changed my life had I known this stuff. I do think I need to open a business and don't know what that'll look like, but
Mm.
I created a business called Sex Ed for You, hung up my shingle in January 2022, and started seeing clients in person in Virginia and around the world on Zoom. Had a reel go viral at the end of October 2022, and the rest is history. I see clients every day all over the globe, and it is my favorite thing on earth to do.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
freaking story. I think you need to write a
Well,
book if you have not already,
thank you.
because
It's in the works. It's in
oh,
the works. Yes.
I would
Yeah.
read it. First of all, I have to say thank you for sharing this because, like you said, you felt alone. Like there was so many things that were happening. And it's like when you're in that, I think in a lot of different situations, it's like when you're going through it, it's very isolating, right? And you probably felt like, holy shit, like this is only happening to me. How did I get in this situation? Like I'm sure all those questions were running
Yes.
through your brain. And like it must have been like very emotional to then be, with your ex-husband and kind of seeing what he was going through and then being put in this situation where you're like, holy shit, like I like the in therapy. I mean, we're
We're huge fans. We're
huge fans,
huge
huge fans
fans.
over here.
If
I think
that
it's
therapist had not said, why are you
yeah,
choosing this? We wouldn't be here
that
today.
is incredible to think
If
about.
and if this random friend hadn't had a dream about me and felt bold enough to say, "Hey, can we sit down?"
Yeah.
Like, whoa, there are so many if not this, then not that. And yes,
Yes.
thank you for drawing attention to. I think people gloss over to this point of my life. She's
Mm-hmm.
going to New York. She's doing engagements, right? She's doing mm-mm. No, I was utterly alone,
Yeah.
utterly devastated, thinking what now? I mean, they also, yes, thank God for therapy. Thank God also for antidepressants. I got
Yes.
put on an antidepressant in that time because I could not get off of the kitchen floor. I was so horrified of what uh, I didn't know. Like, what is my identity now? Everything is
Mm,
changing. And I want any listener of yours to understand that I see you, that we skip to the end of the story. We want to skip to the good part. There's that whole song, right? And I, that messy part was so instrumental to who I
right.
am now. And I wouldn't trade it for anything,
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. And I like that you said like I wouldn't change it, but like I also like looking back, do you ever think like, wow, like
Yeah.
that is I went through that. Like it's almost like you like question like did I really go through that? Did that ever go through your mind?
Yeah, what's been really interesting is that I've been booking a lot of podcast engagements like this one with you recently. And yes, I get to talk on a lot of like sexy podcasts and ones that are committed to sex and relationships. The other type of genre that is
Mm-hmm.
so interested in having me on their podcast is trauma podcasts. And I hadn't
Interesting.
realized how quote unquote traumatic my story was
Right.
until others who specialize in the field
Mm.
were bringing me on to tell my story to their trauma survivor audiences.
Huh.
And it was this very recent experience where I've gone, oh my goodness. I think because I live it, it
Right.
is such an integrated piece of me, right? This Lauren that
Mm.
sits before you today is also the Lauren that was on the basement floor, is
Right.
also the Lauren who, was married and thought she was doing the right thing and didn't know there was a choice. So I can see every version. But yeah, I think it's slowly but surely settling in, and so many folks ask
Yeah.
for a book as well. And I know that stories move me tremendously too. And
Yes.
so when I hear you say that, it's very encouraging. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think everyone has their own story, but I think that some stories, yes, same here. Like sometimes I'm like I've cried on my podcast maybe twice, like hearing people's stories, and it really is so, but it's also like very encouraging because look at you, like you went through all of these really hard experiences, but like I like the way you use the pain to purpose because now it's like you're helping others, and like you said, if you didn't go through all of that, like who knows like what would have happened. Now I want to get back to the thought of you didn't know it was a choice. So like growing up, like I'm kind of curious to just hear a little bit more of that because I'm sure others, like whether it be a religion thing or maybe their parents are together, so like maybe they're in a marriage and they're unhappy or whatever the case may be, but like I would love to kind of know a little bit more about like the thought process like behind that for you and like how you were kind of able to be like, oh, okay, maybe I can remove myself from this unhappy situation.
Yes, thank you. No one's asked that question. So, what a great question. I was raised to believe that when you got married, you left your father and mother and became one with your husband. I get the pretty imagery behind it. I get the harmless imagery behind it. But what I was not coached up on is that if things were not going well inside of your partnership, that you still have agency. I don't think I was ever even taught that word. I was never taught about consent. I was never taught about agency or autonomy or the right to make my own choices with inside a marriage. Never. It was that there was this idea of headship, so that there was God, there was my husband underneath God, and then there was me underneath that. And I say this jokingly now, but it was very serious. It was very serious that I was to submit to my husband and follow him, and that my needs, wants, desires were second to his. I say this and people might think, whoa, that's extreme. But that's patriarchy, my friends. And so, in so many ways, those messages, even if they are not as extreme, are still making their way somewhat into your daily day to day. They just are, because that is how our culture is structured here in the United States of America. I didn't know that I could choose to leave. I guess I knew, oh, if there was adultery and physical bruising were the only reasons I could get out of a marriage. And since neither of those was happening, I did not know anything about emotional abuse, anything about um, mental abuse or control or codependency. Never, never, never did I understand that the things in which I was experiencing inside of a partnership, I did not need to stay inside of. And so it
Yeah.
wasn't until therapy, again, all hands up for therapy, that I
Mm-hmm.
learned about the cycle of abuse, that I learned about codependency, that I learned about boundaries, just normal everyday things that human beings should know. But I was not aware of them, which is really interesting because I was working in the maternal health field doing advocacy for pregnant people from preconception to postpartum. I was working in the world of informed decision making. And so I knew some of
Yeah.
these things, but it's like, nope, didn't apply to me inside of my own marriage. And so I'm glad you pushed into this because now what I work with so many people inside of partnerships to do is realize the choice that they
Mm-hmm.
are always in inside a partnership. And what I find is that when we are making embodied choices, then we are able to show up joyfully and abundantly with our partners, both
Yes.
sexual and our relationships with our friends. It is really good to know, oh my goodness, this person doesn't feel obligated to choose me. They are choosing me out of their own integrity. And that's far more beautiful than being obligated to someone.
Right. Oh, I love that. I like that reframe. Because I think when we're talking about, intimacy and I think a lot of people like we weren't taught, even if I can think back to my sexual education, which was not really great, as a lot of people that I've talked to on this
Most people,
podcast.
Janae,
Yeah,
most people
yeah,
had incomplete and inaccurate education,
yes,
even if
and
they were in a
trash.
very like progressive school or had
Yeah,
great parents. Still, some things fell through the cracks. Yeah.
so bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
we need to work on that. But anyways, I digress. So something I think that a lot of women experience is the, oh well, I just have to pleasure my partner, right? So I'm curious to hear about like coming out of your marriage, like how did you reframe that thought of like, okay, it doesn't have to be all about him. Like my pleasure is very important too. So I'd love to kind of touch on
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Let's go there. Let's go there. Because one of the biggest things I had to take accountability for actually was my lack of understanding of my own body and my lack of noticing, trusting, and valuing my own needs, wants, and desires. Because I deeply think if I had said, hold up, pleasure is for both of us. And this is a need of mine, this is a want of mine, and my wants and needs are good. And so, therefore, mwah, husband, goodbye. Go live your life. We might have been done a lot sooner. He might have gotten out of this unhappy marriage much faster and then found the love of his life, a man, right? Much faster. What's interesting is instead, I led him to believe for 10 years that he'd never be enough, that he didn't know how to pleasure me and I didn't know what I needed to be pleasured. So, yes, you better believe in that basement apartment, one of the things that I was getting very, very good at was my personal pleasure practice. One of the very first commitments I made was that I would be the best lover to myself and that
Mm-hmm.
never again would someone come into my life that was below the level at which I could please myself. They must be as good or better. That was the bar.
Yes.
That was the bar.
We
There was
love it.
not going to be any, no, like, oh, that's not important. We must pleasure a person
Right.
first. And I realized that good lovers really want to know what brings you pleasure. And they really want to
Yes.
be engaged in this because it feels good to be a part of someone's pleasurable experience. And so it was my job to get clear on what I
Mm.
wanted and be able to say what I wanted and what I liked and what felt good and to be able to coach someone up. Now, I do hear the human beings and work with them now who don't want to leave their marriages to go get that. So let me talk to them for a second because sometimes people are like, well, Lauren, you got to start over, but I'm working with a person that I've been married to for a decade or for 15 years. What do we do
Right.
now? And so, what I would say to them is you still get to break apart a container at any time. All relationships are containers. And sometimes we need to take a hammer to them and we need to break them open, crack them open,
Mm-hmm.
and then decide how we want to put them back together. Because I guarantee you, if you are not happy with the sex that you're having, your partner's not either. They can
Exactly.
tell. And it is really a bummer to be engaged in a sexual encounter with somebody who doesn't want to be there and who's not experiencing pleasure. And so we owe it to ourselves to do the hard thing, to say, hey, this is not working. Let's listen to this
Yes.
podcast together, right? Let's
Communicate.
purchase
Yeah.
this course together. Let's work with this person. Let's read this book. There is so much now. My partner calls it YouTube University. Y'all, you
Yeah.
can go on YouTube and just
Look
search.
up
There's
anything.
so much goodness. You don't even have to leave your house or spend a penny. It
Right.
is so
It's so
accessible
true.
now. So accessible. And we owe it to our partners to be able to understand ourselves. And I say that for any people in any body with any genitalia, it is our job first. Our pleasure is our responsibility. What I learned is that inside of that purity culture world that I was raised in, I had taken my sexual responsibility and put it
Mm-hmm.
on my future husband's shoulders. And my future husband had taken his sexual responsibility and put it on my shoulders.
Mm.
And what I then found is that many of us have done this because of cultural scripts. We expect that men will know how to fuck, and we expect that women will just like whatever's done to them.
Right.
And this is messed up
Yes, it
because
is.
good men really want to be good lovers. And they
Mm-hmm.
really expect that these woke, enlightened, juicy women know what they like. And then everybody gets inside of a sexual encounter with good people. And they're like, what's happening? Why aren't you fucking me like that? Right. And he's thinking, why are you losing your voice? What's happening? Right. And it's a really wild experience. And so I find, again, in long term partnership and in casual dating, we must take full accountability for our own pleasure. And then we can invite somebody in. We can
Mm-hmm.
create sexual menus. We can have conversations about the sex that we'd like to have and see if they're interested in playing with us in that way. There is nothing wrong with having different sexual preferences.
Right.
And that is good to know. Really good to know. And then it's really fun to negotiate to a place where it feels good between two humans or more humans. It can be really good, but we must take accountability for our own sexual pleasure.
Oh, girl, I'm doing the snapping, but seriously, I love what you said. It's so profound and it's so important. I think a lot of people do that because we weren't taught like, oh, your pleasure should be about you. Like, oh no, it's pleasuring the man, or he gets off first, or whatever script you were told or brought up with or educated on. I cannot hammer home enough, especially someone who maybe just got out of a relationship, or maybe, and I'm kind of speaking in terms of like, I'm in my 30s. Like, some of my friends are single, but very few and far between. So when you exit a relationship and you have, I don't know, I'm just thinking of a story of like one of my friends had never had an orgasm. Okay, well, guess what we're gonna do, girlfriend? We're gonna get you a toy. We're gonna figure out, or not like me and her, but I'm telling her this as like a sex podcaster. We're gonna figure out for you what the heck you are desiring and curious about, and explore your body. Because if you've never had an orgasm from a man, do it, find it yourself. Because guess what? When you figure out how to make yourself orgasm, your life will change. Let me
Mhm,
tell you. And I
mhm.
think, I think like you were saying, like there's so many resources out there. Like if you're maybe a little, I always say this, if you're a little hesitant about porn, try audio porn, try an audio book or a smut book, right?
Yes.
You could listen to a smut book or you could read it yourself. Like there's so many fun ways. And I think audio porn or erotic audio, whatever you want to call it, is a great segue
Mm.
into kind of being aroused and being turned on by like hearing something, right?
Yes.
You're using that one
Mhm,
of the five senses, but then also I think it's fun because you can also close your eyes and imagine something yourself. So I
mhm.
think it's really so important, and you touched on such a good point of like pleasure is, I like that you said like it's our accountability. It's
Yes.
on us to figure out. And I think if you are, single, or maybe you are getting out of a relationship or you're getting divorced, like having that time for yourself and figuring out like what you truly want can be so impactful and important. And then you can, like you said, like bring that to your next relationship or your next encounter, because then I think it's fun to be able to explore with someone new and then like be able to share all these things that like about yourself.
Yes. And I'd go one further. I think that having a personal pleasure practice inside of a
That,
partnership is
yes,
also mandatory.
so
So
important.
there's this crazy thing that happens inside of a relationship, which is this subconscious desire to fuse with the other. And
Right.
what's interesting, as much as that provides us this feeling of safety and security and this feeling of oneness and sameness, what it does is create so much fusion that we have no more erotic friction. We have
Mm,
no more ability to see the other, our sexual buddy, at an observational distance.
mm.
And when we can't observe the other, there's nothing that we can move towards. And
Yeah.
so maintaining a personal pleasure practice, maintaining a sense of sexual privacy inside of relationship is also incredibly important. I tell clients all the time that the tools that I gathered and learned and mastered in my season of singleness, my slut era, as I fondly call it, are tools that I still use today because I'm still my responsibility. After a
Mm,
long client day, the things that I do to come back into my body, the bath I take, the food I nourish my body with, the way I drink water through the day, all of these types of things, they're my job. They are
love.
not my
Yeah.
sweet partner's job. And
Right.
yes, he can provide me service. I can request things. We can play together sexually. We can go on dates. We can do all of these things. But he is not my caretaker. That is
Yeah.
this desire that we all have primally to be caretaken. And yet, it is the greatest anti aphrodisiac. When someone starts to become our caretaker, or when we start to become a caretaker, it is a great turnoff. Like we
I
can
was
all
just
feel
gonna
it. You're
say.
picking up your
Yep.
partner's socks, and you're like, what am I, your mom? Right?
Right.
All of a sudden, your ew, disgust meter comes on, which is an evolutionary, like, beautiful thing inside of our bodies so
Mm.
that we're not having sex with family members. So the more that we
Yeah.
can take responsibility for ourselves, the better. I don't mean independence. I don't mean this idea of like, I can do it on my own. No,
Mm.
ask for help. And
Yes.
yet, these, again, the things I learned on that basement apartment floor are still the things I use today. I loved that you brought up autoerotica. Yes, romance novels were my amazing, amazing
Love.
tool. Learning my body, taking long showers and baths, learning the sensations that I liked on my skin, using a mirror to look at my genitals and to
Hmm.
understand what felt good, having long sessions with myself, like the longest, setting a timer and being like, could I possibly go 40 minutes of just touching and loving on my body? Could I do that? Could
Yeah.
I not just have a quick orgasm? Most of us learned to masturbate quickly and quietly. And so a
So true.
challenge I give so many people is how long can you last? Can you
That's
edge?
yeah,
Can you
that's
bring yourself
hot.
up
Yeah.
and stop, right? Yes, it's so hot to nurture in ourselves this ability to sit in pleasure, to
Yeah.
heighten what I call our pleasure ceiling, right? To
Ooh.
bump it up a little bit and say, I deserve more. Because so many of us have been
Mm.
taught to want less. And
Right.
no, the
Yeah.
joke's on us. We get more. We get more. And when we do that, we start to broaden our capacity to withstand more positive things, which includes great partners. So if you're one of those
Mm.
people listening to this podcast and you're like, I don't know, that's never going to work for me. I always date the same kind of guys. They never want to do these things. Hmm. Might I offer that by extending your body's own capacity for pleasure, its own capacity for positivity,
Mm.
increases your ability to see new partners.
I love
But our
that.
subconscious is just attracted to sameness, right? Because it's known, because it's safe.
It's
Usually it
familiar.
also
Yeah.
replicates our parental units. Okay.
Yep.
Usually it's also a reflection of those things, but we can heal. I like to quote Dr. Jack Moran, who says, pleasure is the greatest antidote to pain. And
Ooh.
so, if you're in a season of pain, giving your body pleasure is such a great idea.
Love. I love that. Now, when you were in your pleasure practice or like an example of it, could you share like maybe a tip if someone's like, "Ooh, I really need to start self-pleasuring and learning about myself." Do you have tips that maybe
Mhm.
you've tried or you've lended to your clients
Yes.
that you could
Yes.
share?
Yes. So, Michaela Baum talks about this idea of delocalized pleasure. So, for folks who are like, wow, this is very new to me, and sure, I've masturbated, but it's been quick and silent. And that sounds really scary, Lauren. I want you to start with all of your clothes on. I want you to lock your door. I want you to have some lotion or some lube or something soft around, something that you can touch your body with. But I want you to have socks on, your coziest sweatpants or pajamas. I want you cozy and comfy. That is the absolute mandatory thing for this exercise. And then I just want you to put on some soft music, dim the lights, make it romantic in there, and set a timer for 15 minutes. That's it, 15. And then I just want you to start at your feet and move your hands all the way up your body. I want you to try different pressures. Soft, like hard. Like, what does it feel like if you massage your left toe really hard? And then what does it feel like if you tickle the bottom of your foot? Then I want you to come up to your ankle, your shins, and your knees. What does it look like if you do long strokes versus like quick little ones? Again, all through your clothes. Because so often that dispersion, right, the dampening of the touch is actually highly arousing because there's something between our fingers and our skin. As you're doing this too, I want to invite you to notice something. I want to invite you to notice when anybody can do this right now with their own hand. So I want you to stroke with one hand with the other. And now I want you to draw your attention to the hand that is doing the stroking. And I want you to see how much you can pay attention to the feelings in your fingers that are being made by your hand. Now I want you to switch your attention to the other hand that you are stroking. How much sensation can you feel on that hand from your fingers that are doing the stroking? So, as you are touching your body in this delocalized pleasure exercise, I want you to try to transfer attention from the one who is touching to the one who is being touched, which, surprise, it's all you. And I want you to just notice what you like and don't like. The cool thing about doing something with yourself is there's no one's feelings to hurt. There's no one that you're afraid of offending. It's just you. And then, and only then, when you've gone from your toes to the top of your head, if you want to, start touching your body under clothing. Bring it on. Pull off your socks. Pull off your sweatpants. Maybe you still have underwear on. Touch yourself through your underwear. Start exploring your body, but follow the wanting. Only go where your hands are wanting to go. Maybe it's a curiosity for you to touch, or maybe it's desire to be touched there. And I want you to feel the difference. Feel the difference from being the touched and being the toucher. Again, you can see where this is going. This is
I
developing
love
your
that.
understanding of things. But take that whole 15 minutes and then observe, did it go by quickly or were you groaning and waiting for the time to end? And then that's
Mm.
your invitation. If it went by quickly, extend the time. If
Mm-hmm.
you were just like gritting your teeth and hoping for the timer to end, keep it at 15 and just try to make it longer and get to a place where you are comfy. Yep. And then just bring it about. Sure, you're welcome to bring in a vibrator. You're welcome to then start to stimulate your clitoris in different ways, shapes, and forms. But what happens is the average person with a clitoris, especially, takes 20 to 40 minutes to reach
Mm-hmm.
arousal. And so
Yeah.
if we're at 15, we're not even there, friends. We're not even there. People with penises can 100% do this too. I highly encourage this because most people with penises learned about sex from pornography, and
Yep.
pornography usually shows an orgasm so fast. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
really good for people with penises to do this exercise as well, to slow it down and to notice that difference between being the toucher and being touched. What do they like? What would they like to share with someone? Because so
Mm.
often when we're with a lover, we only go to the genitals. And my
Right.
friends, our whole body is an erogenous zone. So yeah,
Yes.
those are some
Ooh,
tips.
I love that. That's steamy and sexy. And I think that's a really good way to start. Because like you said, like if someone's never masturbated, they're like, ooh, that seems a little nerve-wracking. Like, I don't know. Just it's and I like that you said too about there's no feelings that are gonna be hurt because it's
Mm,
just yourself. I find that too, like if I'm ever doing something and I'm like, ooh, that's not right. I'm not enjoying this. It's like, oh, well then I'm the
I don't
person
have
that
to
can switch
anymore.
it. I can change it up. I can do something new. Like it's
And
so
let me say on that note,
important.
because I've had a few clients say this recently, and so this is a good point that you just brought up.
Yeah.
In an average masturbatory session, I want to make it clear most of us choose the change the types of pressures that we're
Yep.
enjoying. And I have many clients who are coming to me with a similar story as mine who have not been a masturbator before.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will come back to a session and tell me we don't do touching in session. So they'll come back to a session and tell me after they've been assigned a masturbatory practice that, eventually it just felt bad. I'm like, okay, tell me more about what you're doing. And then they tell me that they had taken their vibrator and put it directly on the head of their clitoris and just held it there for 20 minutes. And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, that wouldn't feel good to me too. So all of
Right.
our genitals, both penises and clitorises, have clusters of nerve endings in different places. And so it's
Mm.
really fun to explore where where we like
Definitely.
touch and how much touch and how much pressure. So many people with clitorises, again, enjoy some form of dispersion, enjoy some
Right.
type of non-direct stimulation, especially to start. Once arousal peaks and right before orgasm, there's a moment at which most people with clitorises want more direct stimulation, but that's not all. That's not all.
Yeah.
Every single piece of genitalia is different. And yes, feel free within a personal pleasure practice to move touch around and to move it away from your genitals altogether. Go over to your
Mm.
belly or to your butt or to your inner thigh or up to your breast. There's so much that we can do. And yeah, again, pornography is not great.
Yeah. Definitely try out different things. I think a book can be really fun. Even like I've heard of some people like they, were maybe in like a rut with their husband or wife, like a sexual, like they haven't had sex in a bit, like, they're in that, slump, sex slump, whatever you want to call it. And they were like, I really want to get back to being intimate with my partner. And someone that I know was like, I started reading sexy books. And she was like, that kind of got me horny and got me in the moment. And they were like, okay, now I want to have sex with my partner. So it's like something as simple as that can just be like the thing sometimes, our hormones are weird. Like, um, you know, sometimes I think it's so important to try new things and switch things up because I think another part of this too, like that I just thought of is like when folks are doing the same thing with their partner in the same like they start the sex the same way and then it's this position and then it's done. It's like switching it up is so freaking important. And I love
So
talking about that.
important. Yes, I
Yeah.
say all the time when clients come in to work with me and they're in a partnership, a long-term partnership, I say maybe it's not that you don't want sex. Maybe it's that you don't want that sex,
Yeah.
right? That it is interesting that when we survey people in male bodies and people in female bodies, it is people in female bodies that crave adventure and risk. It is people in
Mm.
female bodies who crave novelty. And so
Yeah.
most of the time, especially in a long-term partnership, they're the ones bored out of their minds. It's so interesting. I call it my caveman theory that men seek out a great partner and they're like, I fuck woman. I put woman in cave. I fuck woman same way every day. Happy man. Okay. I find it delicious and precious and the best thing ever. Okay. But it is not really an interest of theirs to constantly be moving things around. My precious husband
Yes.
would love to have sex with me every single morning the same way. He would love it. He would love spicy stuff too, but his
Yeah.
heart would be full. And he's always like, no, I wouldn't. I'm like, yes, you would. If I gave you sex every single morning, if we engaged in a sexual encounter every single morning, same way, you'd be delighted. And he's like, okay, maybe I would. We could also do fun stuff.
They're
And I'm
so
like, I
fun.
know, but it is beautiful. There is nothing wrong with it. There is also nothing wrong with a desire for something new. And yes,
Yes.
audio erotica, erotic literature, amazing. There's a great free amateur website called literotica.com, and it is
Ooh.
just amateur stories. You can search by category. You got to like scroll down. It is an old school website, my friends, but the stories are current. And
I would
what
love
my
it.
partner and I do all the time is they're little short stories and they are straight to the point. They are sex only. They are
Wow.
not a full storyline. Do not be going there looking for creative, wonderful writing. That is not what you're going to find on the site. You will find
Okay.
sexy stories. And I'll find one that's particularly erotic to me, that's kind of in a theme of what I'm into at that moment. And I'll
Uh-huh.
text it to my partner. And I'll
Ooh,
be
I
like,
love
look at what I
that.
read today. It is so fun, Janae. It is such a
Oh,
fun, like,
love
look what I
that.
masturbated to earlier, right? Or want to read what I
Oh,
came to. hmm And then when we do this, we allow ourselves to play with a partner in a fantasy realm too, which is
yeah.
so juicy and so fun. I think there is this common misconception that if we are fantasizing that we're like cheating on a partner, and that is just not true. It is so good for all of us to be
Yes.
engaged in the fantastical realm. Emily Nagoski says that we heal in the real realm and then
Mm.
we self-soothe in the fantasy realm. We
Mm.
all know the power of a good story, and they are delicious. And so it's so fun to play
Yeah.
with a partner and be like, look what I read today, or look what turned me on, or let's talk about this later, or like I'll show you. Yeah, it's just so much
That's a,
fun.
I'm gonna try that. Oh,
Please
thanks for
try
the
this.
tip.
You're so welcome. It's really fun. It's really
Love
fun.
this.
And it's a fun way to engage with the erotic in ways that work with our schedules too. Because let's face it, we're all busy
Yes.
people. And so
Right.
sometimes there's not enough space to say, hey, let's read this story together, or hey, let's watch this porn together. This is a really fun way where if my partner has some time in the morning, but I have some time in the evening, where we can share in the erotic together.
I
And
love that.
we can nurture one another's desire and right to sexual privacy as well.
Mm,
And I think that idea that we own the other person's sexuality, right? That they shouldn't be doing anything without us,
mm.
again, has those ties to the stuff that I grew up in, those purity
Right,
culture
right.
places. And I say none of that. Not good
Yeah.
for any of us.
No, yeah. Be your own person and enjoy your alone time by learning more about yourself. Because I find that like, we can do the therapy, we can do all these things, but like I think it's such an important part of learning about ourselves is learning what we want sexually, right? And like empowering ourselves to explore that. I find it so, so important.
It's funny that you pointed to that because I was in school with sex therapists and I
Mm,
specifically became a sex educator, right?
yep.
I wanted to be an educator and a coach because what I found was my calling was not to therapy. My calling was your body now needs some tools. Right?
Yeah.
Therapy, yes, please stay in therapy, right? Yes, do
Right.
the therapy. It saved my life. And now let's come into our body. Now
Mm,
let's try some things. Now let's get coached up. Now let's practice some things. Now let's play some games. Now let's play some exercises. Because I think within ourselves, we have such power and such knowledge, and that's where we need to work out some of this old shit from before as well. We need to let our bodies learn a new way of doing these things. So, yes,
mm.
therapy is good, but coming back into our body, remembering our birthright to pleasure is incredibly, incredibly important.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. What would you do or like advise someone that's trying to rebuild their sexual connection with their partner when they've been in a rut or in a sexless type of situation?
Well, aside from working with me, just kidding, I would recommend a game. So let me walk you through my
Ooh,
favorite game.
okay, we love this.
It is called the 3 minute game. One of my clients jokes and says it should be called the 12-minute game because it actually takes 12 minutes to play. But it's called the 3 minute game. And this is how it goes. It's just two questions.
Okay.
How do you want to be touched for 3 minutes? Question number one, how do you want to be touched for 3 minutes? Question number two, how do you want to touch me for 3 minutes?
Ooh.
Question number one, how do you want to be touched for 3 minutes? Question number two, how do you want to touch me for 3 minutes? What this game does is mind blowing. I know it sounds so simple, but let me explain. So, in the first question, partner one asks, how do you want to be touched for 3 minutes? Partner two, then, and I always recommend that people play non sexually first because
Mm,
so often we equate touch to sex. And there
right.
are so many different forms of touch that we are missing out on. And so, what I encourage everyone to do first is make a line, make a rule, no sexual touch. Genitals are off the table, clothes are on.
Mm,
So, partner one's going to ask, partner two is going to have to think about something that they would really like. And then they're going to say, will you fill in the blank? Will you massage my
oh,
shoulders? Will you scratch my head? Will you sit on my bottom and do karate chops on my back? Will
mm,
you massage my quads? Once they have asked a will you question, the original partner is then going to ask clarifying questions.
mm.
They're going to say, oh, interesting. Yeah, I could do that. How much pressure? Or they're going to say, you know
Um,
what? My knees are really bothering me right now. So I don't think I can sit on your butt because it would hurt my knees like if it's straddled. What if you sat below me and I sat on the couch and karate chopped your back? So
mm,
both partners are then going to practice the art of negotiation because it is paramount that the giver be well within their limits. they feel that they can actually provide this thing in a great way for 3 minutes and that
Mm,
the receiver is actually getting what they want. So many of us, we talked about this earlier, have been conditioned to just go along with it,
right.
to just say, okay, fine, and tolerate and endure and tolerate and endure. That
Mm,
doesn't fly in this game. So you negotiate to a place where the person receiving is like, yes, that's exactly that pressure. That's perfect. So that you set the timer for 3 minutes. The one who is doing does, the one who is being done to enjoys. At the end, the person who is receiving turns around and says, thank you, deep in the eyes. And the person who gave says, you're welcome. And then they take turns. Switch it around. Now, second round, the question is, how would you like to touch me for 3 minutes? What this does is now give the pleasure to the person who's doing the action. So the first time, the doer was in a service role
mm-hmm.
and massaging shoulders. Now they're in a taking role. And the reason I think this word is very important is that many of us have been taken from without our consent. And
Yeah,
yet, taking is where desire lives. Taking is a really juicy space. We all want to be desired by our long term partner. That is a thing we want. And so to
totally.
hear someone say, oh my God, I really want to just trace my hand on your jawline and like play with your beard hairs and then put my fingers behind your ear and then just grab your hair. May I do that? And then the partner goes, yeah, like, please. And then the person taking then gets to say, will you tell me if I tickle you? If it tickles and it's uncomfortable, will you tell me if the pressure's too hard or this or that? And it's
Yeah.
important that the person touching for their pleasure gets to see that the person who is allowing themselves to be touched is also mindful of their limits. That they can
Mm,
trust that the person who is allowing their body to be used can say, stop, please. Oh, that tickles a little harder, please. Oh, actually, pause. Can we switch sides of my face because it's starting to feel uncomfy? It is so important for the person who is taking to be able to trust the person who is allowing their body to be taken from. It gets so fun. Boy, oh boy, does it get
ooh,
fun. As a person who plays this game all the time, I love
okay.
being in every single role. So then the person touching on the second round, they're the ones that say thank you. And it's beautiful and
Oh,
amazing because they're touching and it's for them. So then again, timer goes off, you switch roles. At the end, the person touching says thank you, say you're welcome. Then have the world's juiciest conversation about the way in which your brain was just exploded, and the way in which you struggled, the ways in which it was easy, and also watch yourself be aroused because erotic equation, attraction plus obstacle equals excitement. So
ooh.
when we have put a natural obstacle between us and our long-term lover,
Uh-huh.
watch those sparks fly when we can't. When, oh, that lady on the podcast said that genitals are off the table. Okay, well, boy, it makes me want you more. And so often in long term partnership, we can just have the other whenever we want
So true.
isn't sexy anymore. It's like a 3 minute game. How would you like to be touched for 3 minutes? And then how do you want me to touch you for 3 minutes?
Wow, this is juicy shit. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That's a good one.
So
Definitely, if you're listening to this, use that. I'm gonna
mm,
try this. This sounds like
mhm.
a fun experience. Fun
So
experience. I love it. Any last moments or thoughts before we get into our game for today?
No, I did want to offer that if anybody wants a follow-up worksheet or something like that, feel free to reach out. We'll share all my info at the end. I would love to connect you. I even want to say you can totally Google 3 Minute Game by Dr. Betty Martin. There's
Okay.
also a video on YouTube that you can watch other people play it with your partner, or just send me a DM. We'll talk about my socials and stuff like that, and I'll make sure you have content like connected to that. But it is Dr. Betty
Perfect.
Martin's 3 Minute Game, the wheel of consent modality that all of my clients are coached up in because it changed my life.
I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. Okay, you ready for the game?
I'm so ready. As you can see, I love games.
We love a game. Okay, so the first one is this is called this or that. First one is dine in or take out for food.
Dine in.
Dine in. We love it. Beach vacation or mountain retreat.
Beach vacation.
Love. If you could have a personal chef or personal housekeeper,
Oh God, this is like literally a current conversation in my house. Housekeeper, because then I can make
housekeeper.
a mess in the kitchen and they clean it up.
Ooh, that's a good point. Would you rather have like deep conversations or playful banter with your partner?
Deep conversations.
Love. Okay, so thinking back to like when you and your husband were first dating, would you rather like first date have a dance class first date or karaoke first date?
Dance class.
Dance class. Love it. Love it.
And he would have blown me
What was
away.
that?
I said he would have blown me away too. He's a really good dancer.
Really? That's
Yes, it's
awesome.
it was like such a fun thing to find out later. No, he loves
That's
going dancing
cool.
with me. Like he has a big one for dancing. Yeah.
I like that. That's so fun. Would you rather be a kid forever or be an adult forever?
Kid.
Uh, yes. Uh, would you rather own a yacht or own a private jet?
Mm, private jet. I
Private
could go
jet.
more places. Yeah. Yacht is
Right.
beautiful. I just met a person with a private yacht and that they live on. So I guess it's not
Oh,
just like a fun yacht.
fancy.
It's like where they live. But I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I think
I'd
yeah.
I'd be sick. That's what I would
Yeah,
be.
I do get ill. If it's big enough, I guess I'd be fine. But no,
Right.
I want to jet.
Love it. Would you rather give up all technology or give up TV, movies, and books?
Oh God. No, all technology, because then I could still have books. This was like a trick question. Like, wait a second. I need something. I
All my
want to
book
read.
lovers, yes, all my
Yeah.
book lovers say that. They're like,
Uh-huh.
what, how could I do
No,
that? Mm.
I would
Well,
not. I'm looking at all my books on my bookcase around me and like, no, it's not gonna happen. My
yeah,
babies.
it's a real thing. I love reading as well. Pizza or pasta?
Mm. Oh God. Um, that's a hard one. Pizza.
It is a hard one because I personally think both are like so good. I don't even know what I would choose on that one, to be
I
honest.
don't. I think I have pizza more regularly,
Mm,
but like handmade, like good pasta is phenomenal. Like life-changing.
so good. Like homemade
Yeah.
pasta.
Yeah, oh my
Okay,
goodness. Yeah.
now I have to throw in some sexy ones. Okay, so
Yeah.
are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. Would you rather have no lube for the rest of your life or no sex toys for the rest of your life?
No sex toys.
I feel like
Says a
shit.
woman who's like starting to move into perimenopause. No, like I'm just imagining like UTIs and yeast infections from
It's a
friction and no thank
no-go.
you. No, no, it's a no-go. We need lube. We don't need those no external pressures. No.
Yes.
I can do old fashioned manual. Like I can go manual.
Yes.
No, thank you.
I
I
love it.
just I just traveled for work and left my favorite vibrator, the only vibrator I had brought on the trip in New York before I flew to Vegas. And I was like, oh no. Well, hi
So,
hands. Here we go.
the
Here we go.
acoustic
The
version.
acoustic version.
Would you rather have more foreplay or more role playing?
Mm, foreplay. I love them
Foreplay.
both, but foreplay. Yeah.
Love that. This is an interesting one. If you had to choose one of these two are very interesting. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
An orgy with all strangers or an orgy with all your exes?
Oh God. An orgy with all my exes, hilariously enough. They're all great. They're great.
Hey,
And at least I could
we love it.
they all know what I do. They'd look to me to create a container of consent and safety. But strangers, they're scary. I have been harmed in spaces with strangers
You'd be
in
like,
sex.
no,
No,
it's a
no.
no-go.
Exes, meh, even the ones who are now gay would be fine. They'd be
Yeah,
fine. They'd be
love
fine.
it. Love
And
it.
the past lovers would be fine too.
I love that. Okay, that was the last one. That was so much fun. Thank you for playing along with my
You're
game. I
so
loved it.
welcome. I loved it. I loved it so much tonight. Thank you.
Of course. And please let everyone know where they can connect with you,
Yeah.
find anything you got going on.
Yeah, please, please, please follow me on Instagram. Go to sex_ed_4_you. Sorry about the underscores. You got to type it in. You might hear this podcast and I might be shadow banned. You never know. I try constantly to get out of the shadow ban, but they're constantly putting me back in. I have requested to get sex ed for you just straight across. Somebody's got it though.
Mm,
Somebody in
the
Meadowlands trying to
worst.
help me. It's the worst. So sex_ed_4_you. Come on over, send me a DM, tell me you heard me on this podcast. I'd really love that. Then, if something in your body resonated with something I said today and you'd like to work with me, go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. Put in there again that you heard me on this podcast. And I would love to just chat with you about what's going on in your life right now, share with you how I work with my clients, how it differs from therapy, how I've been saying that the whole time. And then, yeah, there's no pressure to book with me, nothing like that. You can just see if possibly working together might be a great fit. It is a fun 15 minutes, I promise. And I try to answer all of your questions and leave you feeling more encouraged and more empowered. I have a couple podcasts. You can find me and my partner at The Partnership Podcast. If you want to hear more about how we incorporate things like the 3 minute game into our lives, you can literally look up that episode. There's one of us talking. I mean, we talk about the 3 minute game constantly. But if you want to hear our love story and just see all the in betweens, all of the real shit that goes on in a real partnership, go to that. And then I have a Sex Ed for You podcast. Yeah, where you can learn more about these types of things that we talked about today. So, yeah, those are all the places.
Amazing. Well, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you, Janae. Have a wonderful day.